What was the tipping point that made live streaming subscription television a reality? I'm Tanya Hall for ZDNet, and joining me is Jimshade Chaudhari. He is the Vice President of Product Marketing and Management for Sling TV. Welcome, Jimshade.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. We all recognize that Sling TV is a leading live TV streaming service and a part of the Dish Network. So what is your role as product and marketing management?
Sure. My role as the kind of product management is I'm responsible for the user experience as well as the product roadmap. So that means what features we're putting into the product, how we're best meeting the customer's needs around this emerging space.
It is an exciting space. In fact, Sling was the first live streaming content provider. Walk us through how Sling's live streaming works exactly, and maybe some of the technical challenges that you've had to overcome since you launched in 2015.
Sure, happy to do that. I think if you go back in our history to Sling TV launching back in February of 2015, one of the trickiest parts was actually non-technical, which was getting the programming rights to offer these channels outside of the traditional pay TV bundle. And so we started working on that way before 2015 to make sure that we could address a major pain point that customers had with traditional pay TV, which was really it cost too much. They weren't getting value out of it. And back in 2015, we looked at that pain point of not getting value, having to go through a credit check, having to pay for equipment that you might not want. And we addressed each one of those pain points with the launch of Sling TV. And from a model standpoint, what we did was we actually broke the bundle. So with Sling TV, customers can buy a small pack of their favorite and the most popular channels, and then they can buy extra packs on top of that based on what their viewing habits are. So if you have kids in the household, you can buy a kids pack. If you're a sports fan, you can buy sports. So you don't pay for channels that you don't really want or that you don't really watch. From a technical perspective, I think the trickiest thing about Sling TV was we were a trailblazer in launching live video streaming over the internet. So if you think back to before Sling launched, there was services like Netflix and Hulu's On Demand, and it was always on-demand content. And the big difference between on-demand and live was when you have on-demand content, when you take that content, you have time to encrypt it, you have time to transcode into the different formats because it's not live content. And so the whole video infrastructure really for the internet was around delivering on-demand content. And so one of our biggest challenges was how do we deliver live content over the internet? Because the internet wasn't created for live video. So that involved working with a lot of the CDN partners that were used to delivering on-demand content and starting to tweak parameters to make sure that live video was, making it to the end user's device. It was working with a lot of the device partners because a lot of the services like the Roku supported or Amazon with on-demand content. So they really have the concept of how to integrate live content viewing into it. And the real-time nature of live versus on-demand also made the advertising piece really difficult because if you think about a service like Netflix, there is no advertising in it. With Sling TV, we have something called dynamic ad insertion, where we insert ads real time so that if you're watching a show and I'm watching a show, we could have two different ads served to us that make sure that the most relevant ad makes it the right customer.
When you originally launched, to your point, there were services like Netflix and they were streaming rather movies and that sort of thing. But you were offering programming and by content providers, by programmers who had traditionally had exclusive relationships with cable and dish providers. So did you get any pushback from programmers in the beginning that were concerned about maybe some cannibalization of their own product on other networks? What kind of reception did you get?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the conversation has turned drastically since we first started. At the beginning, back in 2015, we were going out to the programmers and trying to convince them that this was the way of the future. This is how people are going to watch TV, kind of with the flexibility and control that they have in all other parts of their life where they couldn't. With traditional pay TV, you had to just buy the bundle that was being offered. There was no flexibility or control, and that's what we knew customers wanted. And so back in 2015, people were really hesitant. They didn't want to make that plunge, to your point of it could cannibalize their traditional business. And so we, as being part of Dish, we leveraged a lot of our relationships with these content providers. And we basically convinced ESPN to be the first one to take the plunge. And once they kind of signed up with our service, if you fast forward now to 2018, we have programmers knocking on our door that want to be part of Sling. So the conversation is almost done a 180 from us having to go and convince people that this was, not a fad, it was going to be a trend, to now people knocking on our door and realizing that, we were ahead of our time, or we were ahead of the times, and that we were anticipating what consumers' needs and wants were. Now they want to be part of Sling TV.
It shouldn't surprise me that that ESPN was certainly the programmer that kind of understand their own audience, and that people were going to want live streaming. And if you think about MTV being the programmer who kind of drove the cable subscription early on, ESPN seems to be the live streaming basically renegade programmer who said they really got it. Let's take a look at your actual profile of who typically are the Sling customers. I mean, are what would that profile look like? Are they millennials? Are they baby boomers?
I think it's evolved a lot, once again, since we've launched. We definitely have a ton of millennial customers, people that have grown up around kind of Netflix and not the traditional pay TV model. But one of the things we've learned over the last, I'd say, 2.5 years now is with the cord cutting trend, a lot of other people are realizing the value that Sling provides. And it just goes back to the pain points that they have with traditional pay TV. And when you're paying, over $100 in your bill and you're not getting the value you want, you look for alternatives. And once you experience Sling, we have a 7-day free trial. People don't have to go out and buy a new device. They usually have a streaming device in their home. And once they try Sling TV and they realize they get to choose the hardware that they watch it on, they get to choose the content that they want to consume, and they don't have to pay for this big bundle. It's actually appeals to a wide variety of people everywhere, from millennials to kind of baby boomers.
How are they consuming your product? Are they doing it at home, on the road? Are they plugging in full-size screens, or do they prefer tablets and phones for usage?
I think it really depends on the situation. Kind of our rule of thumb is people will gravitate towards the biggest screen they have with them. So if you're out on the go and the mobile device is the only thing you have, we see people viewing on mobile. Once they get home, a lot of the viewership is on what we call the 10-foot devices. So, the smart TVs, your Rokus, your Amazons, Xbox connected to the big TV. So really, we see people using, the desktop browser. We see them using mobile. We see them using 10-foot. But it's usually whatever the largest device is in terms of screen size, that's where they gravitate towards.
How does AI and machine learning play a part with the Sling service?
Yeah, so right now from an AI perspective, we're really focused on experimenting around our customer service. Our customers expect us to be available to them 24/7, and we've seen some great results in our early trials around using chatbots.
Does Sling, or I should say, who does Sling see as their competition? I mean, is it the Netflix of the world? Is it the Comcast of the world? Or is Dish your competition?
It's really interesting. When we think about competition, sometimes, I look at it and say there's really no direct competition to Sling. And the reason I say that is, if you look at what, the competition has done, whether it's YouTube or Hulu or PlayStation, et cetera, any one of these, they've just replicated the old model, the same bigger, biggest bundle that you got on traditional pay TV, and they just delivered over the internet versus a managed network. If you look at what Sling has done is we've broken that bundle up. And so we offer customers that choice. You don't have to pay for 100 channels if you're not going to watch 100 channels. You really pay for the content that you want. And so when we look at different video streaming services, obviously customers have a choice on which ones they can download. And we think, for example, Netflix, very complementary to us. They don't offer live TV. And they have a huge library, and they have obviously the original content. So for us, if I look at it, I look at Netflix as complementary. We look at antenna usage. People can just go out and buy an antenna at a Walmart or a Best Buy and get, their ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox free over the air. And so one of the strategic decisions we made to keep our price point at $20 was, why should we make customers pay for content that's available for free over the internet? So we've done a lot of work of integrating those experiences together so they're seamless for a customer, so they can see their Sling channels plus those antenna channels in a unified UI.
What's your future product strategy for Sling?
Yeah, so I think, we've learned a lot over the last 3 years. I think, one area that we're focused on a lot is really personalization, getting people to the content they want as quickly as possible. Some would argue we're living kind of the heyday of content creation. Almost every day there's a new show or something coming out or that you hear about from your friends. And for us, it's a lot about making sure that when customers come to Sling, that they get to the content they want as quickly as possible, because people want to watch their favorite show. They want to watch their favorite teams compete. And for us, it's really getting those customers to that content as quickly as possible, because nobody wants to work for their TV experience, right? At the end of the day, when you're tired, you come home, you just want to turn on and enjoy content. You don't want to spend 20, 30 minutes looking for something to watch.
Okay, Jimshade, what's it going to take for streaming services like yours to dominate satellite and cable? Or are the cord cutters and mobile technology and demographics in general taking care of that for you?
I think it's the latter, right? I think it's the more we get people to experience the services, the more they realize that it's not having to learn a new technology just to watch TV, and that there's a lot of benefits. I think that flexibility and that choice and control, that's what customers really value. You know, there's no contract for Sling TV. You take our free trial, you try it out. If it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, there's no contract that you've signed up for 2 years. So I think we're probably almost past that tipping point. We've seen, back in 2015, people thought it might be a fad. We see now that it's a trend. It's not abating anytime soon. And I think, we're well positioned to take advantage of it going forward.
Well, I really appreciate your time, Jimshade. If somebody wants to connect with you, or maybe they want to learn how to order Sling TV for themselves, how can they do that?
Yeah, the best bet would be going to sling.com. We go over all of our packages. You can sign up for the free trial directly there. Or you can go to any of your streaming devices and also sign up for Sling directly from the app.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for your time. And if you want to follow me, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or find me on Twitter. I like to tweet at Tanya Hall Radio, or find me on Facebook by searching for The Tanya Hall Show. Until next time.